Yo, so I just found this. So I'm like staring at it. It's a deer jaw, okay? But it got me thinking. It sort of got me thinking. I already know the answer in my head. But you think we can cut a tree down with this? So the first thing when you think about cutting or using primitive type tools is you got to realize it's not going to compare to modern tools. It's not going to compare to something like this. But this might get the job done if you just think outside the box a little bit. First of all, think if we flip it this way and I hold it, now I can use it as a small cutting saw. So it's about the same length as a saw that's on a multi-tool. The problem is though, if you look here, these teeth are super loose. So that's going to cause a little bit of a problem, unless you know how to make glue. So we can make something called pitch glue. Pitch glue is a combination of 3 elements. The first one being pine sap, the second being charcoal from an old campfire, and the third is some type of binding agent. Anything that has roughage in it will work. Now traditionally they said that a lot of animal scat was used for this, like rabbit turds or deer turds, or I have used with much success fluff from cattails. For this process, we want to heat up the pine sap until it becomes somewhat watery. At that point then we're going to sprinkle in some charcoal and then mix in some of our binding agent. Now you're going to have to play around with how much of each. You don't want your glue ultimately to be too hard or too soft. You want to try to find that happy balance. There you got it. Teeth are glued in, tops are still exposed for the sawing surface. Now I'm just going to give it about 15 minutes to dry and we're going to see if we can cut a small sapling. So if you check that out, making a cut pretty nicely. So with something like this, rather, because it's going to of course open up, so think of the curve of a normal saw, we can just come in the other side then. Just work that side a little bit. Cut that side. Just taking our time, like a caveman. All right, let's see. So not too bad. If I didn't probably push as hard, we wouldn't have that little center section. But if I was doing something with the trap, I can easily just take a stone and pound that. And the rest of our stick, it came out pretty nice and clean cut. So other than a very small little section in the middle, and that was from me bending it a little bit, getting anxious, we have a pretty clean cut in there. So not too bad. Dirty fingers, yeah, but all part of it. As far as how the teeth held up, we're looking good in there. Okay, so everything's looking nice. Glue worked, held it in place, and it did well. So I would look at a saw like this as something that maybe you don't have a knife, but you need to make a trap or a trigger, or you need to cut a notch. Something small that requires a very specific type of cut or angle to it. So we can just break a branch down and just use that. But if you think about different style trap triggers, you might need a flat top. So that might require a small stick getting cut nice and cleanly. And maybe you don't have a piece of rock that's sharp enough to do that. So that's where we can use something like this and have a good time with it. Like I said earlier, I mean, this is never gonna compete with a modern day saw, and it took a little bit of extra work. But I'm really happy with how that clean cut that straight across, and it was a fun project overall. So give it a shot if you're out and you find a jawbone, make some glue, try it out, and have yourself a good time in the woods for the day. So this was Dan Wallach, Coalcracker Bushcraft. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com, and until next video, stay in the woods.